Yes, I shot an entire corporate event on this Panasonic 50mm f1.8 prime lens, and no, I'm not crazy for doing that. I promise I have good reasons. So let's talk about what I shot, how I shot it, and why I chose the 50 when I probably should have gotten a really long zoom lens. But first things first, context is important. So I was hired by the good folks at TransEU to shoot their panel at the Translogistica event. Translogistica being the International Transport and Logistics Exhibition. And not only did I have to shoot their panel, I also had to shoot testimonials at their booth afterwards. And a little bit of B-roll as well, but I'll get to that in a second. First, I know you're wondering, let's talk about all of the gear that I brought with me to shoot this event. As always, I brought with me the Panasonic Lumix S5IIX and a tilter cage. On top of the cage, I had an Ulanzi top handle, and on the side, another Ulanzi handle that had a NATO rail adapter on it. On the top handle, I had my Field World monitor that was on a Hummingbird quick release system. And the monitor itself was powered by an MPF 970 battery, which pretty much lasts for days and days and days. In terms of audio, my trusty Rode Video Micro, as well as the DJI Mic Mini, which I'll discuss a little bit later on because there's more to say about that. Everything was on my Malibu travel tripod, and the camera was powered by an Anker power bank that has power delivery. So that was all of the gear that I brought with me for the event. Now, in terms of audio, there are some things that are worth mentioning, and mainly the fact that the people that handled the audio at the event, they also recorded the panel as well, so I didn't need to worry about that. I just brought a USB stick with me, handed it over, they copied the files onto the stick, and that was that. I just used the Video Micro to record my own audio, obviously, and then sync it in post with the recording that they did. But for the testimonials, like I said, I used the DJI Mic Mini. But this, the thing that I'm holding now, was a new addition to my kit that I specifically bought for this event. And I'm not talking about the entire microphone, I'm just talking about the microphone handle, because if I take this thing off, as you can see, it's the DJI Mic Mini inside of it, but it's on this. Well, it says DJI mic handle. I highly doubt it's actually DJI. I think it's a knockoff, but if I bring it closely, it does say DJI right on it. So the question now becomes, why did I buy this handle? Well, the initial conversations that I had with the client, they wanted both testimonials at their booth that are a bit more produced, where I can put up a light, set up the shot, have more time with each interviewee, but they also wanted to have interviews on the floor at the event itself. So just roaming around and getting shots and interviews with different people. And for that, I didn't want to have to lug around my microphone and an XLR cable and an external recorder. I didn't want to do any of that. I wanted to be nimble, and I knew that the only way to be nimble is to use a wireless microphone, meaning I had to use the DJI Mic Mini, but it's awkward just to hold that tiny thing in your hand and just pass it around from person to person. So that's why I bought this mic handle. Now, it's a piece of plastic. It works fine. It was cheap. The only problem that I have with it is the handling noise. Handling noise is horrendous. Now, I don't know if you can hear it because I'm holding my hand pretty steady, and even if I move it like this, you shouldn't hear anything. But, and fair warning, this is gonna suck. If I start doing this, yeah, you're gonna hear all of that. So that's why I'm saying it works great with the exception of handling noises. Now, why oh why did I choose the 50mm as my main lens for capturing images both at the panel and the testimonials? Well, the main and most important reason was budgetary. They didn't have enough budget for me to actually rent a 70-200, for example. I got paid for the event in the low four figures. I mean, barely scratching four figures, both for filming and for doing some editing work afterwards. So no budget to get a proper lens for this type of event. Now, I own the 50mm, but I also own the 20-60 f3.5 to 5.6. And you'll see quite soon why I didn't go for the zoom lens, even though it does have a higher reach. And that's because of the constant aperture of 1.8 on the 50mm. Now, as you can see from the images, the venue itself didn't have a lot of light, and the stage only had 2 spotlights on it, which were, in my opinion, poorly placed. Now, I didn't have anything to do with those. That's how the organizers set them up. That's what I had to work with. And I knew for a fact that I needed a very fast lens in order to keep the ISO manageable and get a clean image. So that's why an f1.8 came in clutch for my needs. Now, the third reason, which is important, has nothing to do with the lens itself, but it does have to do with the camera. And that is having pixel-to-pixel or APS-C mode on the Panasonic Lumix S5IIX. By using those, this 50mm is a 50mm in full frame, but it also becomes a 75mm in APS-C or a 78mm in pixel-to-pixel. So I had 2 focal lengths, well, 3 actually, but 2 that actually used the 50mm in full frame and the 78mm in pixel-to-pixel. So it gave me enough flexibility and reach that I could get enough diverse shots of the people speaking in the panel that I needed to. And yes, obviously there are downsides of using pixel-to-pixel mode, as in you won't get as creamy of a background, but you still get the equivalent of a 2.8 or f3, which for these types of shots, and especially giving the focal range of 78, is cool enough. It does the job. Another reason why I chose the 50 is its autofocus. It is rock solid, and I needed autofocus because, especially in these types of events, people tend to move around, they turn, they lean forward, they lean backwards, and I needed an autofocusing lens that I could trust, and that is definitely the 50mm. And the last reason is it is light. It weighs almost nothing. And I know you're probably wondering, well, you had the camera on a tripod, so who cares if it's light or if it's heavy? I care because I wanted to get diverse shots. I was moving around with the entire setup from one spot to the other. So every little bit helps. If I can shave off a few grams, 100, 150 grams, I will definitely take that. And trust me, doing this for 2 hours straight, at the end, you definitely feel it. So it being a light lens actually really helped as well, even though it was on a tripod. But obviously using a prime lens at this type of event does have its drawbacks. And the main one is flexibility. You're stuck at 1 or 2 focal lengths, which for the most part, it did work out well, but there were times where I needed to get closer to the subject. And I couldn't do that physically because that would have meant me stepping in front of the audience. And we as videographers, we need to be a fly on the wall. We need to do our job, but people mustn't know that we're there. We shouldn't be that obvious. So that's why I couldn't get physically closer to the person that was speaking. And obviously there were times when I needed a wider shot or would have liked a wider shot, as was the case for the testimonials, but I couldn't make it happen even if I was at 50mm. For the testimonials, the spot that I chose to film in order for me to get the proper framing, I stepped out of the bounds of the booth itself, so I was kind of in the middle of the road there for people passing by. And it's not great. You don't want to be a nuisance, right? But on the other hand, you do need to get the shots, so even though people shouldn't see us at events, we as videographers, we still need to do whatever it is that we can to get the job done. But to be honest, that's the only drawback for using this 50mm at this event, the flexibility. But in order for me to solve that, I obviously had the 20-60 kit lens with me as well that I used to get B-roll shots after the panel and the testimonials were done and filmed. This obviously wasn't my main reason for being there. Those were the panel and the testimonials, but I was there, got some images at the booth, faked some interactions because it was pretty quiet when I was there. And also went around the entire event getting shots from different vendors, things that were going on, a lot of people shots, interactions, things of that nature. So would I do this again? Would I shoot this type of event on one prime lens? If I had the option, probably not. I would go for the 70-200 f2.8. But if this is the only lens that I own, yeah, I could make it work. I could shoot a similar event just like I did this time with one 50mm prime lens. But that obviously is dependent on the needs of the shoot itself. This one was pretty straightforward. I could get away with it. For other events, I don't know. It kind of depends on the event and what you want to shoot. But yeah, you can definitely make one prime lens work, because in the end, come on, it's not about the gear. It's not about having the most expensive gear. It's not having the best gear, whatever that means. It's about having the right gear for the job. In my case, this was the right gear in the context of budgetary constraints, what I needed to shoot, where I needed to shoot it, and so on. So what about you? Ever shot a corporate event strictly on one prime lens? If so, let me know how it went in the comments below. Subscribe, like, do whatever. Bye bye.